everybody, and welcome back to Talkin Wellness. See, I told you we were coming back. My name is Christian.
My name is Brendan.
And we are so happy to see you here with us. Man, you know what? I was looking at JP's episode. After editing, I loved it. It was such a great episode.
Yeah.
So thank you again, JP, for being there. If you haven't seen it, please go back. We posted it, based on today, like 2 days ago, I think it was. So yeah, please go back and check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It was a very cool episode. I liked it a lot. Absolutely. And JP has such a powerful story. But today we have a news story to share with you. Please, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, everybody. So I am Chanel. I work here at South Florida Wellness Network, and I'm a youth peer specialist, and I'm so happy to be here. It's really an honor.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
We have a full youth takeover today.
I
Only youth team.
Yep.
Honestly.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to bring you on for sure. I'm very big on bringing in people who work here to talk about their stories, kind of, in September. So we're opening up Recovery Month. We have our big September 13th event. I'll put a pop-up right here. It's coming up real soon. Here you can see it, very flowy, very magical. And we're super excited. We're gearing up. Literally, I'm going there tomorrow to check out the venue, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be so cool. So that's the next big event that we have here at South Florida Wellness Network. But in the month of September, we are going to focus on stories of recovery, and I'm so excited to have you as our first official story of September of recovery.
I'm honored.
It's and great, and plus I don't know you a lot because you only started working here not so long ago. So I love these opportunities to sit down and kind of get to know our new people.
Yeah,
and just really ask those important questions. You
right.
know? So Brendan, you have anything to comment on before we start?
I mean, mainly just about Recovery Month. That event is going to be really impactful, and one of the reasons it's going to be very impactful is because Chanel will be performing.
Yay.
Yeah, she will. Yes, she will.
Which is one of the main reasons, aside from just getting to know you, is that we want to have you on, is just to also show that we're going to be promoting a ton of artists to come. And,
a ton of artists with recovery stories.
Absolutely.
So it's really exciting. And then I'm going to be there too. I'm going to be the MC of the day, which is really exciting.
I'll be
That's
directing
fun.
people onto the stage, so I'm sure at one point we'll all...
Oh, yeah.
We'll
we're all going to be there. It's all going to be exciting.
It's going to be a whole party.
Well, Chanel, we're going to basically open the floor to you, okay? So I was telling you a little bit before we started, we're very open when it comes to sharing your story.
Yeah.
We kind of want to give you an opportunity here to kind of start from the beginning,
kind
of show us a little bit about what that recovery looked like when you were first starting it, and what does it look like today. So I want to give you the floor here. Share us your story, Chanel.
Yeah, so my recovery story has actually been a pretty, I'm going to say, extensive journey where at the beginning, it felt like I was in such a dark place for such a long time that I never knew what the light was going to look like. And it seemed like one day I just woke up and I got fed up with where I was at. I was deep in depression and anxiety and hopelessness, and I didn't see any future for myself. And one day I just woke up, and I remember my therapist telling me this. She was like, Chanel, you're glowing today. What's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like something inside of me just woke up and said, it's time for you to take back control of your life, take back control of your mental health, take back control of everything that you've gone through, and just rise up and take the first step. And so that for me was a process of seeking therapy, of seeking help, and also really leaning on that inner strength within me. And the first step that I took was that I started reaching out for my faith. For a very long time, my faith was something that I disconnected from for a long time because I felt so hurt by basically like the church, because I felt like my faith was something that I felt like, because I had mental health struggles, that I was not somebody, I didn't have faith. I wasn't somebody that could believe in a higher power, because why would I be struggling with mental health things if, if God exists? Why would he allow that pain for me? And so for me, rekindling and reconnecting with that faith was one of the biggest steps for me. So I started changing the content that I consumed. I used to consume a lot of negative content. I started changing, watching faith videos, listening to worship music, listening to things that were empowering, motivating. I started making videos, and that was something that I stopped doing for 3 years when I used to be a content creator since I was like 20. And so I started doing that again. I started going outside, going to the gym. I started writing again, which was something that I stopped writing for a very long time. I started journaling. I got myself a laptop for the first time in years where I was a writer, but I stopped writing. And then I rekindled with that writing. And I started doing affirmations. And so I never knew what the power of affirmations were until I had a friend tell me, hey, Chanel, like, you should start doing affirmations. You should start doing things that kind of like having this positive self-talk with yourself. And so I started talking to myself in a more positive way. And there's such a thing as neuroplasticity, where you literally change your chemistry, the brain and your chemistry, the chemistry in your brain, when you start talking to yourself in a more positive way. And so I started doing all these different things, and slowly I started getting back to that Chanel that was so long gone from that depression and that anxiety that I was in that hole for such a long time. And so journaling, prayer, affirmation, community, not being ashamed of your story, not being ashamed of your past, therapy, community is like the number one thing. And I can't like even explain how, for me, South Florida Wellness Network has been such a pivotal, like I would say a breakthrough moment in my life, because I struggled so long with that mental health aspect of myself, feeling like I was the only one that was struggling, because from my family, nobody else struggled with mental health except for me. And so when I found South Florida Wellness Network, I saw a community of people that had gone through mental health and were able to recover. And that to me inspired me to know that I wasn't alone. And so the way recovery looks like for me today is waking up every single day with a sense of purpose, waking up every single day, not dreading the day the way I used to when I was depressed and anxious, where I would sleep until 5 p.m. because I had no motivation. It looks like waking up with intention, with purpose, with having a plan for my day, with not wanting to stay in bed, with wanting to actually live, with actually feeling motivated, with going to the gym because I want to go to the gym, not because I'm forcing myself, but just doing things with purpose instead of feeling dread, waking up with a sense of, you know what? I'm meant to be here. I actually matter, And so that's what recovery looks like for me today.
That's awesome. So I obviously, and I'm writing down a couple ideas here because I just love the way you're sharing here. Obviously I'm a faith person as well. I grew up in the faith. I grew up in church, and I can relate heavily to the church hurt, right?
Yeah.
And how and I can only speak from my experience, but it was kind of like ingrained in me that I shouldn't be feeling sad because I believe in God, and God never would want me to feel sad.
Right.
And that's what we quickly learn, is that a lot of people in the faith go through mental health, and what does that journey look like? And I love the way you explained it, like it was kind of like a conflict of like faith, right?
Yeah.
Your faith was put to the trial because you were thinking, well, if God is supposed to be all good and all knowing and whatever, right?
Yeah.
How am I feeling this way right now? And I really related to that. So I kind of wanted to go back to that a little bit. I want to hear you talk a little bit about that time of your life. Like, what did the depression and anxiety look like when it came to yourself, your identity, your relationships? What does that look like?
So for me, that depression and that anxiety was so debilitating to the point that I truly hated myself. When I say I hated myself, I could not stand to look at myself in the mirror. I would not dress up the way that I dress up now, that I do my makeup and I care about my looks, and not in a vanity way, but I care about the way I present myself.
Of course.
I would wake up and I'd be in pajamas all day and not do my hair, not take care of myself. And I felt such a sense of low self-worth, and I felt ashamed of myself. And I think that's one of the biggest things with depression, is the shame that you carry and how your identity is fractured because it's so ingrained in brokenness. You feel so broken. You feel so lost. You feel like you feel like you have nothing of value. Like it's like you feel like a burden to the world and a burden to yourself because you're so lost in this sense of, it's like pain and numbness at the same exact time. So for me, that depression looked like I had no motivation. I had no goals. I had no sense of direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah.
All of the dreams that I had of singing and of ministering and of preaching or of being a motivational speaker, or all the things that I'm doing now, none of that for me was in the table. I had no sense of direction. My mom and my family were extremely worried for me because they would just see me lying in bed all day. I would not get out of bed. I would not do absolutely anything. And I was completely isolated. And that's one of the biggest things with depression was the isolation. And my depression led to the point of isolation where I genuinely felt like I would compare myself with other people because I would say, look at me. I'm not worth anything. Why would anybody want to be friends with me? Because I have nothing to I have nothing to offer. I'm broken. I'm lost. There's no purpose to my life. Why would I have anything to offer? And so that sense of identity was so fractured. It was so broken because there was these beliefs in my head about myself where I couldn't see my potential, where I couldn't see my value, where I couldn't see all of the good qualities. I didn't see any of them. I just saw brokenness. And I remember my mom was struggling. This is the thing about mental health is that it doesn't only affect you, but it affects the people around you.
Yeah.
And my mom and my family were so desperate. It got to a point when it comes to my mental health and depression and anxiety, I actually went through a bipolar episode where I had a breakdown, and this happened around 2 years ago, where I was just I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of no sleep. I was paranoid. I was anxious. I was feeling crazy. I didn't trust anybody. It was just like a manic episode. And I did have to go to a hospital because of that, because I had my phone taken away. And when that happened, I started hating my family because I was like, why would they put me in the hospital? My mom was like telling me, Chanel, I just want help for you. I don't know what to do. Yeah. And that's another thing, is that with mental health, there isn't enough resources or education sometimes in certain families of how to handle mental health crises.
Absolutely.
And so she did the best that she could. And so after that, after those 2 years and after I started getting into my recovery, I think I've learned so much about how it's so important to reach out for help when you need it, and reach out for help and to not be ashamed of it, and for a long time, the biggest shame that I carried was that I started using alcohol as a way to numb my pain and a way to numb my anxiety. My anxiety attacks were so bad that I would feel like I had to go to the hospital because I thought I was going to die. Those when I had panic attacks.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to die. I thought that, it was the end of the world. I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight. And my family, and I'd just be like, Mom, help me. Somebody help me, because I didn't know how to self-regulate. I didn't have those tools that I have now. I didn't know what deep breathing was. I didn't know what the 5 senses things.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this, and that's what happens. A lack of education leads to desperation.
Yep.
And so, basically, after all of that, after that crisis and all these kind of things that I was going through, I just felt so lost and broken, and like I was never gonna be redeemed. Like I had so much moments of feeling suicidal, but I never had a plan. But it was always like in the back of my mind, I was like, death would be better than this.
Yeah.
Than to be going through this pain every day, to hate myself when I look in the mirror, to not feel worthy. And I would tell my mom every day, Mom, I don't want to be here. And my mom would start crying, and she's like, Chanel, if you don't want to be here, I don't want to be here, because you're my purpose for living. And so my mental health affected my entire family, and it affected everybody. Everybody would always be like, how's Chanel doing? Is she okay? When I had that crisis, I was seen as the crazy one, because that's how mental health is seen when there's ignorance around it. Oh, she's crazy. Oh, what's wrong with her? So there was so much shame. I was in hiding. I hid myself. I didn't have social media. I stopped posting. I was just completely isolated. And so that depression and that anxiety for me, when I started drinking, was when I was having the panic attacks, and I would just fill up my cup with alcohol and like Coke, and just sip it all night and then go to sleep, wake up the next day, do it. And then I did that for like 2 to 3 weeks. And then what happened was that I just had this moment where I was like, I'm just going to have to face these feelings, this anxiety, whatever is going on with me, face it head on. And that's it. And not numb myself anymore. And I made that decision. And I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is breaking me apart. This is like destroying my family. This is destroying me. And I made the decision. And I faced the anxiety, you know, the withdrawals and stuff like that. I would face the withdrawals. And then I felt like I was taking back control of my life for the first time.
Well, I'm interested, to know, because thank you so much for sharing all that, because I can resonate a lot with what you said. And
Yeah.
one of the ways you described it was like being broken, burdened, feeling like a burden.
Yeah.
And just like not feeling lost, like having no direction.
Right.
I'm interested to know like how you kind of were able to pull yourself out of that, but specifically with, you mentioned community was huge for you.
Yeah.
And faith too.
Yeah.
So if you could share a little bit.
Yeah, no. And the way I was able to like pull myself out of that, it was definitely, I would say my faith and my community was probably the biggest thing in my life. If I would have had my community, my church community, even though I felt a little bit isolated, they were always there to pick me back up. Like, for example, one day I was honestly just feeling completely lost and broken, and I had no idea if I was going to make it the next day. And I went to church, and my pastor just came up to me without me saying a word, and he said, Chanel, I don't know what just came to me, but I feel like I need to tell you something. The reason you're going through all of this is because you have a huge purpose, and it's because you are going to be a light to many people, and your story is going to be used in order to help other people someday. And God is with you. Even if you feel like right now what you're going through is too much, we're here for you, you know? And everybody in the church started surrounding me, like everybody. And they just started praying over me, hugging me, like pouring words of like encouragement into me, saying, you're not alone. We love you. You matter. You're important. All of those lies that are in your mind, it's not true. We're here for you. We understand you. And I just started crying and crying because I felt like I was carrying that shame for so long. And I felt so alone. And then to feel that sense of community and that encouragement helped me in ways that I can't even imagine, you know? And it was able to really lift me up from that moment of despair and show me that it gave me that little bit of hope that I needed in that moment. Because sometimes when you're so deep down in a hole, you don't come out of it right away. You know, it's like a little tiny glimpse of hope showing me, you know what? Maybe I can get out of this. Maybe I truly am not alone. Maybe these lies that are tormenting my mind aren't truly, they're not true. You know, maybe there is a glimpse of hope. And I left home just thinking about that interaction and thinking about all the love that I received that day. And I woke up the next day feeling a lot more clear, you know, and I felt a lot more clear-headed. And I felt like the next day I just started writing again. And that was one of the biggest things for me, that I just started writing in my journal, and I wrote like 50 pages, and an idea came to me to write a book. And the book was called With Me in the Dark. And so I started writing that book after that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is that sort of something that, like, I know you're big into like writing. I know you're like, you're talking about journaling, like in self-care now.
Journaling,
like those things are, you know, knowing you, I know those are really impactful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, how has that played into your creativity too? And like, you know, writing for songs or writing for, you know, ministry stuff? Or,
Yeah. For me, writing to me is honestly like, it's a lifesaver. It's a light in the dark. It's everything to me. Every single day I write. Like for me, when I write, it's a form of me connecting with myself and a form of me of reflecting on my thoughts. Whenever I feel anxious, whenever I feel a little bit antsy, or I feel like I'm disconnected from myself, when I write, it just helps me kind of release all of my emotions and put myself in a positive mindset. And one of the things that I do with my writing is that I have a gratitude journal. And that's one of the things that I do every single day, is where I put, what are things that I'm grateful for this morning? And I put, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. And like, I just go down the gratitude list. And that inspires me more it shifts your perspective completely when you start thinking about the things you're grateful for, and it puts you in a better mood. And those are one of the wellness tools that I've been using. And then when it comes to my writing and when I start writing songs, I usually, the way that songs come up for me, they come up to me very spontaneously. I just start singing whatever's on my mind. I come up with the melody and I just start singing and singing whatever comes to my mind. And that's a way of expressing myself. So I sing it. I like sing it into my phone. Like I record it. I'm like, oh, this is good. I got to record it into my phone. And then I start writing it down. And then I start working on it on GarageBand and stuff like that. And really my creativity and my expression in my videos, I usually don't write my videos. I just record them. I honestly turn on the camera and boom, I just flow. And there's just this thing inside of me now with my recovery that I just feel so like this burden for like to be the person for other people that I wish I had. I want to be that person. I want to be that light. And I want to encourage other people who are going through the same struggles that I've gone through, that there is hope, that there is light. And to every single day I wake up, I'll make 5-10 videos a day just because it's this inner pulling inside of me that just comes out. And I feel so much better when I do it because I'm like, wow, like what I just did right now helped one person. Even if I had 1 like, even if I had 2 likes, it doesn't matter how many likes I got, but I did it, and even though I was struggling, sometimes I'll have like a really bad day and I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to make a video of encouragement and I encourage somebody else. And then it shows me, I'm like, I can do hard things. I can still encourage while facing my own battles. And so that to me is a moment of like reflection where I'm like, wow, I did that.
Yeah, it shows how far you've come too. To be able
Exactly.
to do something like that.
Exactly. But yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I love I love the way you're sharing all this. I am curious, however, for me, I can connect a lot of my mental health to a lot of stuff in my family and my past and in my upbringing. But I'm very curious to hear, where do you think a lot of this depression, anxiety, and maybe even self-hate kind of stem from? Or in other words, where do you think it's hard to pinpoint, but if you could pinpoint like an era of your life or something that happened in your life that you feel that's kind of what started the first domino, what would you say that era was or that point in time was?
I would definitely say it was in high school where it started. I remember exactly when I turned 14 and I went out with my friends one day and I remember they were doing drugs and stuff like that. And they offered me to like, I think smoke weed and stuff like that. And I smoked. And that was the moment I had my first panic attack. And I had a really bad reaction to the weed. And after that, I didn't know what anxiety was in my life. And I at the moment in my home, there was a really bad relationship between my mom and my dad. They were in the middle of a divorce and my dad was very abusive. And I remember I was like, if my dad finds out that I smoked weed or stuff like that, like I'm going to get in big trouble. Like I'm a Christian, I'm in a Christian home, like I'm going to get in trouble and stuff like that. And so I remember I started having anxiety attacks every day from the moment that I was 14 because I experienced it the first time and I didn't know what it was. And I thought that I was going crazy because I'm 14. What's a panic attack? What's anxiety? What is this? I was the happiest girl in the world. And from that, having that anxiety attack and not understanding what it was, not being educated on it, not seeking help, not knowing what anything was, and having that relationship with my dad where I couldn't really talk to him and my mom was the one that was working and he was home all day, and not being able to express, look, this is what's happening to me. Like, I need help. Like, can you like tell me what this is? What I can do to help it? Can I go to a psychiatrist, medication? Like, what can I do? So that shame that I held in the inside of what I was experiencing caused this feeling of dissociation. Like I was disconnected from my reality. I was disconnected from the people around me. I was lost in my own head. And my high school years were the most depressing years of my life. I wore all black like that was like my outfit. Just wore all black all day. Just like listen to depressing music. Everything was depressing. Shows were depressing. Everything was like dipped in sadness. My best friends and me, the best friends that I had, were people that were depressed. Like that was for me. That's the way it was. And so high school was a very dark time for me because in those years, you're also trying to figure out who you are as a person and your identity. And supposedly high school's supposed to be fun and you're like going out and like you're partying or like all this stuff. And for me, I was wallowing in bed and I was having existential crises. Like, what's the meaning of life? What am I doing here? Like, just like not a normal 14-year-old. Like, I was just reading philosophy books, like reading existential books. Like, it was just like this whole thing that I'm like, I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I like this? You know? And just feeling like completely isolated. And so, I think it definitely stems from that feeling of isolation and not having a safe home environment, you know? Like, I would go home and instead of maybe inviting my friends over, my dad would say, no, you can't invite friends over. And so I had a very restrictive dad. He was like a very mean person in my life. And so just feeling that sense of isolation definitely fueled the depression because I felt if I would have had family, because I moved to Florida from New York with no family, just my mom and my dad, I felt like if I would have had more relationships and more people in my life and more community and more education surrounding, if somebody would have just told me you had an anxiety attack, that's it. And let's get you help. And that's it. And you can manage this. It wouldn't have prolonged for such a long period in my life. So that's definitely where that stemmed from.
So you mentioned that you come from New York, right?
Yeah.
And you what age did you move to Florida?
At 5 years old.
Okay, interesting. Because the question that I was going to ask you is, do you see any difference? But from what I hear you saying, a lot of this happened here. In
Yeah.
Florida.
So a lot of the trauma happened in Florida. So I had a lot of I had always happy memories of New York because that was my childhood.
Yeah.
New York was the escape, the happiness, the joy, the childhood that was free and there was no pain and there was none of that. So whenever I would go to New York in the summers to go be with my grandma and my family, I felt happy because I had family there. I had people that I knew. I always felt like that was my happy place.
Yeah.
So coming to Florida, it felt like I would always tell everybody I hate Florida. But it wasn't Florida that I hated. It was the experiences that I had.
Yeah.
You know?
And I feel a lot of people relate to that. That's why I wanted to ask you that question because I've heard a lot of people have that same sentiment.
Yeah.
But it's obviously when we start looking at what's really going on,
Yeah.
we can have a better understanding, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I share a little bit of that just from being from Massachusetts and coming
Yeah.
here very young and sort of being in between both. It almost was like, all my family's here and this was a life that I could have had there, but I had these adverse experiences and it's sort of tailored into that. But I know that you went to college for a little bit.
Yeah, I did.
So how was that going back? Did it give you that sense of like, oh, I'm here? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, when I went back to college I went to BMCC, it was really, really a fun experience because I was pulled out of my shell of isolation and of doing nothing all day, to being in the city, to going on trains, to going everywhere and seeing the movement of the city and pizza everywhere and food and like
I'm walking here.
I'm
yeah.
walking here and like, just like the energy of the city and like everything was so new to me and it was so refreshing and I was like, this is what I was needing in my life. Like, and going to classes every day, it's something that I was really missing in my routine when I was going through that depression in Florida was a routine and like discipline. And so having classes to go to every single day and waking up and like, getting my coffee and like just getting ready for the day and like just experiencing all of that newness for me was so refreshing. And so when I went there, I created new memories. I met new friends. I met new people. I was in like film classes and I was in script writing classes and I was in like all these different classes that were really fun for me. And so, and I felt useful. I felt like I was discovering myself for the first time and I felt very, very motivated. And so that to me, I associated New York with just happiness. Like for me, it was happiness because I wanted like they say, it's a city that never sleeps. So there was always something going on,
yeah.
like you could always like, you go here, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go sightseeing. I'm gonna go see like, the Empire State, and I'm gonna go to Times Square, whatever.
Mhm.
And so to me, that was like a really ground breaking point in my life, not only because of the excitement, but it was also because it was the first time that I was away from my family. And I was kind of showing them and showing myself I can be away from my family, because for a long time I depended on them. For a very long time, I depended on them for emotional support, and I felt like I couldn't be away from them. And so being away from them showed me kind of like, it rekindled my identity, and it kind of just
Yeah.
stabilized me and showed me, hey, Chanel, you can be on your own. Like, you're your own person, like this
Yeah.
is, you're creating your own life now. And so it kind of gave me my power back for sure.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, I hate to bring it down, but I have to ask the question.
Yeah.
How was that process moving back from New York to Florida?
So
Yeah.
that was definitely a really hard part, because I kind of had to go back to reality, because the thing is that, well, in New York, I stayed in New York for a bit because I got an internship and stuff like that. And so after that internship ended, I was kind of like, okay, I can't afford the rent here. It's like extremely expensive. I can't really pay rent with like an internship of like $12 an hour. Like, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
So when I went back to Florida, it felt like being back. I would call it like being back in my own personal hell. Like, that's the way it felt like, because it felt like I was on such a high of my life. And then going back to that routine where I was like, I felt like I didn't really know what the next step was. And so I kind of like, I was still like, I felt a little bit more stable, like emotionally, because I had that kind of like, my identity was a little bit more firm, because I was like, okay, I did this, like this is what I did for my life. Like, I know that I can continue moving forward, but I was still a little bit lost, and it was definitely like a very shocking moment for me. And for my family kind of just said, so what are you going to do next? And I'm like, I'm not really sure, because like sometimes when school ends, you're kind of like a little, you're like, what am I supposed to do
I
now?
don't know what to do now.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know what to do. So I would say it was a moment of like a lot of like confusion, because there was a lot of conflicting emotions for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, and kind of like, we've talked a lot about the past. We talked about what it looked like when it was actively going on. So today, especially gearing up now for Recovery Month,
Yeah.
where you're going to be singing.
Yeah.
So I'm a big music person. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious to hear your response to this. How has music helped your recovery journey?
Yeah, and can
Me-
you please sing your answer as well?
Oh.
I don't know about that.
I'm not ready.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, no. No, music for me has been, honestly, I would say, a saving grace. Like, music for me, this is a little thing that I want to talk about. For me, when I was depressed, there's this thing called anhedonia, which is you don't feel things. Like, for example, if you listen to music, you don't feel things. But what happened was that when I got out of my depressive episode, I started feeling the music again.
Mm.
And when I started feeling and crying and feeling the emotions of the music, it was like being reborn. I was like, I can't believe that I can finally feel the music again, because music, since I was a little girl, I always said I wanted to be a singer. I want to be a musician. This is my life. And to me, it was such a groundbreaking point, because it showed me, you know what? Chanel's back. Like, I'm back. Like, that's it. Like, that Chanel that didn't feel anything, like, I can feel again. Like, I'm back. And to me, like, with music, I sing every single day. I sing in the car. I sing in my family is like, you need to stop singing. Like, you're being way too loud. Like, please, we're trying to sleep. But like, to me, like, making music is not just only to share it with others, but it's a form of me grounding myself. It's a form of me reconnecting with who I am and reconnecting with that strength within me. When I sing when I'm anxious. I sing when I'm sad. I sing when I'm happy. And I feel like when I sing, and for me, like, music, what it means to me is that I want to use it to uplift others. I want to use it. I want to use my story and my writing and what I sing in order to share my story, but through music, and it's a healing journey for me. Music is healing, it heals me. It restores me. It shows me that there's something within me. I'm like, when you have a talent, but you haven't really connected with it for so long, the way I was a singer, but I stopped singing for like 5 years. But then I started singing again. I was like, wow, like this thing that I have inside me is really powerful because I can be in a bad mood and I sing my favorite song and I feel lifted up again. So the power of music for me has been a saving grace. And I would just say that I'm so happy that I finally found it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you have any questions?
No, I love that. I mean, I agree. I'm people say I'm a songbird and it's usually not a good thing. But it's because I sing so much and it's
Yeah.
like it's so impactful for me, and like just singing in the car or at home or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the other day, actually, this is a small anecdote. I was going by somebody else's apartment
Yeah.
in my new complex and I heard them singing and I
Yeah.
thought, I'm like, oh, they can hear me.
Yeah.
100%. When
100%.
people are
Right.
walking by, like, oh, I realized I was like, they can probably hear me.
Yeah.
That's okay because you have a great voice.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, you have a good
Yeah,
voice.
you have a
Thank
good voice.
Thank you,
Sometimes
thank you.
I'm at the gym and like I'm in like in the gym and I'll start like singing in the shower and I'm like really loud and some girls like, hey, you have a nice voice. I'm like, oh my God, they were listening to me. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Chanel,
Of
for
course.
being in this podcast, and we really appreciate you kind of sharing your story. So I just have one final question to
Yeah.
ask you, unless Brendan has any other questions he wants to ask. But the only one that I'm like really passionate about asking you is, what does Chanel look like today?
Well, Chanel looks like today somebody who is clear-headed, somebody who is honestly at peace with herself finally, like somebody who is very growth-minded, faith-driven, purpose-driven, and every single day I wake up with a sense of gratitude. Just it's not the broken Chanel anymore that is ashamed of herself, but it's actually somebody who I feel like there's a light within me that wants to shine and wants to really uplift, and I feel a sense of purpose in my life. That's one of the biggest things I was looking for was purpose. So I'm just really glad to be here and to continue just keeping on.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
we're so happy that you're here and happy that
Of
you got
course.
to join. And
Thank you.
I can feel the growth. I can hear it in the way that you describe
Thank
how
you.
things used to be and how you are now, and it's very obvious. So, you
Thank
know,
you so
it's
much.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And if I just thought of another one, but why not? Let's say there's another Chanel out there
Yeah.
listening to this podcast right now who has some sort of similar story to yours. What would be some words of encouragement that you would give them?
Yeah, I would definitely say that there's no valley too low. There's no place in your life that you can be at that is too low that you can't rise back up again, because the same strength that you've had to keep on going on and keep on pushing through your hardest days is the same strength that is going to carry you to your recovery. And recovery is possible. Hope is possible, because for me, I didn't think that there was hope for me. I didn't think that there was any life at the end of the tunnel, but it is there. And it's deep inside of you, waiting for you to wake up and just grab it and take life by the hands and continue pushing forward.
I have
Yeah.
one last thing, and it's
Yeah.
I know that you have like some businesses and stuff. If you'd like to shamelessly plug that,
Oh,
I love a
yeah, of
shameless plug.
course.
Shameless plug, absolutely.
Yeah. So I have my ministry on TikTok. It's Chanel Rowe Ministry. That's where I post daily encouragement videos and share a little bit about my thoughts about faith, recovery, resilience, and just encouraging others. And I also have a makeup business called Chanel Rowe Beauty, and it's also on my TikTok, and you guys can see it and just check it out. I love makeup. I love encouraging people, and that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much for listening and watching along in this episode. Please leave a comment. We love to read the comments. Please like, share the podcast with wherever you can. We want to reach as many places as we can and reach recovery to as many people as we can. So don't forget about September 13th. Make sure that you come on and you check out Chanel. She's going to be singing there. We're going to have a whole bunch of artists going to join us there. It's going to be a great time. I got a little glimpse of like what are some of the things that we're going to be doing. And I'm excited. We're going to have a party. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great.
So yeah, please feel free to come by Hollywood Circle on September 13th. And other than that, we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.